Girlies. Welcome to the Notes to Her podcast. I'm your hostess, Rianne, and we are back with another episode. I don't even know what number we're on now. I think, if my calculations are correct, we are number 16. Yay! Little small wins and achievements. We love that. Not going to lie to you, girlies. This is a pre-record because by this point I am on my holiday in Ghana. But before we get into this episode, if you haven't already, please do like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell so you never miss another episode every Friday at 7 p.m. where you normally listen to your podcasts. If you also want to know what I'm up to while I'm on my holiday, don't forget to give me a follow on Instagram. My personal handle is Rianne Walker, and instead of an E in Walker, it is an X. And the Notes to Her .pod account on Instagram as well. Oh, yeah. So if you want to know what I'm up to, then, just hit the follow. And I was like, I can't leave the girlies high and dry. I have to, try and still be consistent, even though I'm kind of like off grid, but still on grid. But, I couldn't do it. And I couldn't do it to myself because I know what I'm also like. If I go on my little holly bobs, do you know how long it's going to take me to try and get back into the swing of things? So I was like, no, let me be prepared. Let me not procrastinate. And let me get the ball rolling, So I'm super proud. I love that for me. Anyway, how are we all doing? How has our week been as well? Obviously, as a pre-record, probably not going to go through my week, to be honest with you. But just know that I'm living my best life. Like future me right now is just like, yeah, she's living her best life up in the sun in Ghana, by the pool. Most likely you'll find me there. So yeah, super fun. But yeah, how is everyone? Let me know in the comments below. And I am good. I feel like because time is getting closer to obviously me actually going on my holiday, if that makes sense, I'm feeling a little bit just like, okay. I know I've got to get things done before I go as well. And the main thing that was on my mind is just making sure that I don't leave the girlies high and dry and that I get these episodes out and done. So yeah, making sure that you guys still have your Friday fix at 7 p.m. And yeah, I feel like I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. Despite the weather being like quite dreary right now when I'm recording, my energy is still pretty high. Vibrations, high vibrations, girlies. Yeah, amazing. So in today's episode, we are talking about self-sabotage. Oh, me and that go together like mac and cheese, like jerk and chicken. Who doesn't love a bit of self-sabotage? No, I'm only joking. We're trying not to do that around here anymore. We're trying to notice the patterns and cut that off, like cut the cameras. So as always, gonna give a definition of, what self-sabotage is. Girlies, if you are a self-sabotager, a fellow self-sabotager, I was gonna say rise. Rise. Drop a comment below in the comment section. Let me know. Let me know also like what type of self-sabotage that you also do as well, if that's something that you've noticed, or if you haven't even noticed, like let me know as well. I feel like it's such a normal thing, like that we don't even think that's what is categorized as or labeled as. So yeah, let me know. Anyway, so the definition, when I was doing my research, I've got 4. I love detail. Something about me, I love detail. If there is like any like nitty gritty, it may not even be relevant, but just still let me know, because it's just like, okay, I'm visualizing this so much better. I'm thinking of this now and I can see what you mean and what you're talking about. So I've got a main definition and then it kind of broken down into 3 separate parts as well. So the definition of self-sabotage is any deliberate or unconscious behavior that creates obstacles interfering with your long-term goals and overall well-being. It often acts as an unhelpful defense mechanism, stunting your potential out of fear of failure, success, or vulnerability. Okay, so then the next definition, the psychological definition, is actions or inactions rooted in self-doubt, anxiety, or past trauma that undermine your own success. So the behavioral definition is learned and often outdated coping mechanisms that provide short-term comfort but long-term damage. And the last one is the core mechanism definition. And this is the behavior that creates internal cognitive dissonance, causing mental discomfort when your actual progress doesn't align with your deep-rooted beliefs or upbringing. So when I was, reading what the definitions are, and, kind of just, I guess, researching a little bit more and beginning to kind of like understand it a little bit. Mind you, this is just surface level research. It wasn't much. But there were specific words that stuck out for me. And I know for myself as well, when I think of self-sabotage, it is things that I guess do interfere and are things, I guess, that a part of you is conflicting, right? Because I feel like sometimes it's one of those things where you know what you want to do, you know what your goals are, you know what you want to achieve, but then the psychological aspects, things that are so deep rooted within you, kind of stop you from achieving those things, which I guess is what the definition was saying as well. So certain words that stuck out for me was obstacles. So, when I think of the word obstacle, I think of, barriers, something that, trips you up, and you kind of have to be able to try and get yourself back up again. It doesn't matter how many obstacles there are, but that was something that's really stuck out for me. Another one was interfering. So with that, I think of, it distracts you, it causes you to like pause or stop, and you have to tend to that obstacle. You have to tend to that. You have to try and get yourself back up, like I just said. And I don't know why, I was also thinking like and envisioning, I guess, like a racetrack. Girlies, if you haven't noticed, I'm a bit of a visualizing person, basically. So I was thinking of a racetrack, and when you're doing like hurdles, the hurdle races, if that's what you call it, basically, if you are to trip over one of those things, that is just an obstacle, and you have to try and get yourself back on track to be able to continue running the race. So when I'm thinking of interference and I'm thinking of obstacles, I'm thinking of that, something that you have to kind of like tend to if you've, I don't know, twisted your ankle or, hurt your knee kind of thing. The other one is stunting. So with that, I was thinking of, it keeps you at the same level, you remain the same, something that, there's no more growth. So it stunts your growth. You're kind of just, you remain the same, basically. And then also rooted. So yeah, the psychological definition said it's something that's rooted in self-doubt, anxiety, or past trauma that undermine your success. So, when I think of the word rooted, it's kind of like a seed that's been planted, right, within you, deep within you. And that then begins to let the roots grow. Once you plant a seed, you water it, the sun comes on it, fertilize it, all that business. The roots are beginning to grow in that. And with that, they can remain there. For anything to grow, it needs roots. I also put, weeds, and it's hard and challenging to remove those things because they're so deep ingrained. Another word then was undermine. And when I was thinking of that, the words doubt, something that's beneath you and you don't have much confidence or faith in. The word outdated, when something's outdated, it means it's kind of like served its purpose. It's no longer needed, the service is no longer required, or it's no longer relevant to your current self in comparison to, I don't know, at the time when that defense mechanism was created, whether that's 1 year ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, as a kid, I don't know. But it's no longer relevant today to who you are as a person now. And then the last one then was short-term comfort. So, I've spoken about stuck in your comfort zone before in previous episodes, and how that can kind of like, I guess, stunt our growth when we remain in the same comfort level and comfort zone that we're in. There's also, this, when you think of the word comfort, it's what we know, but often afterwards those negative feelings kind of like overwhelm the comfort level. So have you ever kind of like done something, been in a situation where you self-sabotage because of defense mechanism that you've had? And I've mentioned about and spoken about defense mechanisms in previous episodes, and I'm surprised this one didn't come up, so apologies for that. And after you've self-sabotaged in a way, and if you're aware of the self-sabotaging patterns that you have and mechanisms that you have as well, have you ever felt like overwhelmed by them or guilty or ashamed that you've behaved or allowed that defense mechanism to overrun and overpower, I guess, the rational and logical side of the brain and yourself, really? So those are keywords that really stuck out for me out of those definitions and stuff. And I don't know, self-sabotage is something that I've begun to notice, like, oh, okay, like I'm doing this now. Not something that I've put a whole flashlight on and I know every single pattern and form of self-sabotage that I do, but there are things that I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm self-sabotaging here. And rather than trying to, the negative feelings do come, but rather than sit and dwell in it, I'm now trying to, I guess, use that as an opportunity and switch my mindset around it to be like, okay, I've now noticed that I do these things. What else can I do then to combat the self-sabotage, or what are the beliefs that's ingrained with me as to why I'm self-sabotaging? So the types of self-sabotaging that come with that then, and when I think of self-sabotage as well, I also think mainly around, it can come in so many different forms, and it can, come up in different scenarios and situations as well. But I automatically think of like relationships. I don't know why, but I think it is something where it's kind of like you're developing a relationship with someone, and I guess you learn so much more about yourself when you are in a relationship. You can learn things about yourself if you're single, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot more things come up when you're in a relationship, because you're kind of, I guess, sometimes I guess they say like a bit of like a mirror, right? And a bit of a reflection of yourself. Someone's able to hold that up and be like, oh, okay, yes, you've got the good in you, but you have flaws as well that you may not have noticed at a certain point in time. So anyway, types of sabotaging mechanisms that come up is sabotaging relationships. So like I just mentioned, certain toxic traits that may occur, kind of pushing people away from you if you feel like they're getting too close. So you have that level also of distrust potentially as well, which is also another type of self-sabotaging, kind of, I guess, that fear of getting too close to them as well, because you just fear that closeness basically. And yeah, other certain toxic habits, or feeling like you're not worthy of, love and a healthy relationship. Other things potentially that could come up in is opportunities. So for example, a job opportunity that comes up potentially could be your dream job, or a job that you feel like you may not have enough skills in or experience in, and that's a form of self-sabotage as well. I remember like when I was I'd started, well, on 2 occasions really, I'd started jobs, and although on paper like seemed quite overly qualified, done uni and everything like that up until masters, in different aspects, got skills, blah 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 blah, and on paper really good, but because I felt like, well, I don't have enough experience despite me getting the job, and I know I could learn on the job, and my mindset was so, I don't know, just a lot of self-doubt in a way, which is another form of self-sabotage. I just felt like, oh, I can't do this. And I feel like the mindset that I had and my beliefs that I had in myself as well is something that I guess stopped me from really, I don't know, giving my 100%, I feel like, in a weird way. I've not really unpacked that. So girlies, I'm going to thank you for allowing me to talk about this and create this episode, because now I'm gonna sit back and be like, okay, so this is what I guess the self-sabotaging of was as well, the self-criticism, another type of self-sabotage, and the negative self-talk as well, because I felt like I wasn't good enough to be in a specific role that I didn't have the experience in, but I could just learn on the job. So yeah, opportunities, kind of self-sabotage in that way. And underneath that, I guess, term and umbrella is the self-criticism, negative self-talk as well. Another type is perfectionism. So creating those unrealistic expectations and standards for yourself that, you kind of just, when I think of a perfectionist, because I am like that, I can be like that at times as well, depending on what it is. I think of something that basically you have a task at hand and you're not giving yourself enough time. It's not something where, especially if you don't have the experience to do it as well. For example, I have to give an example. When I was doing my roller skating, classes and stuff like that, before I went into the class, and it was like a 6-week course, and I was doing it every Wednesday. I think it was like 3 hours every Wednesday. Super fun. But I know before I went in there, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be the best roller skater ever. Like, I know what I'm doing. All you do is just glide your feet. It's perfectly okay. Mind you, I had never even roller skate before in my entire life. So I don't know why I thought that I'm going to be the best roller skater there. And I was so fearful of like falling and hurting myself. And the amount of times that I screamed in that first class was insane, because I was just so like tense and everything like that. But the perfectionist in me got so frustrated at the fact that I wasn't perfect at that skill or something that I'd never done before, that also caused me to be tense and frustrated at myself and annoyed at myself because I wasn't good at something. And then those beliefs that I may have and could have had was then being like, oh, well, there's no point doing this anymore. And I just wanted to give up. So unrealistic expectations and standards of yourself is a form of self-sabotage. The next one then is procrastination. If you haven't listened to procrastination is the assassination of your destination episode, definitely go and give that one a listen. I'd really spoke about what procrastination is, why we may do it as well, how it impacts us and everything like that, and the types. So, procrastination in the form of stopping yourself from doing something that you need to do out of whatever the reason may be, is a form of self-sabotage. You're not wanting to succeed in the goal or task at hand and achieve it. And I was surprised at this next one when I was researching, what self-sabotage is. It wasn't really a definition. I don't know if I could really label it as that, but it had basically mentioned, it's a type of thing that essentially you're wanting control of. Like, self-sabotage is an element of wanting to control something. If you're not able to control something, for example, the feelings that may come with, I don't know, being in a good, healthy relationship, all those feelings occurred, things are getting brought up that you've never really felt before, the distrust occurs, you're wanting to kind of flee from the relationship because you may not feel like you're worthy of that person's love, and you're not able to control those like really good feelings that are coming up. In order for you to get that, I guess, control of something back, you're essentially going to self-sabotage. That's you trying to unconsciously, though, control the situation and defend yourself. And the last one then was resistance to change. So again, I've spoken about it before in previous episodes about when we are in our comfort zone, we're not really people that want to change or change our environment, change of scenery, change of jobs. You're going to be resistant to that because you don't, I guess, have control of certain things. So resistance to change. And those were the types of self-sabotaging mechanisms, I guess. I don't know if you can call them. Yeah, the definition called them mechanisms. So I found that super interesting. I felt like there's obviously loads more types of self-sabotage and, methods, mechanisms that occur. But those ones really stuck out for me as well, to be honest with you. So there's different reasonings as well as to why we would do that. So, I've mentioned the fact that it is a defense mechanism. Those things occur based on whatever situation we may have been in, then we feel like the need to protect and defend ourselves. And I've spoken about that in previous episodes as well. And then also then as well, like, if our beliefs are something where we're continuously doing a lot of negative self-talk to ourselves and, internally kind of things like I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy of this or, things like that, basically, we kind of do anything to try and keep that narrative unconsciously. We don't realize that we're doing it, but it's kind of something where we have a negativity bias. So I think as human beings, essentially, before we actually see the good in something, we're going to see the negative first, and that can be the only thing that we can kind of keep our eye on until we become aware and begin to learn, like, actually, no, let's see the positive in this. And it's a skill, right? I feel like it is something that you just develop over time, the more that you hone in on that. So if continuously all we're seeing and having is a negativity bias, when then it comes to things like self-sabotage, and the whole negative self-talk aspect of it, that's all we're going to believe, really. And we're going to do anything then to keep that narrative and to keep those beliefs that we have within ourselves present in our mind continuously. So girlies, I think it's something where we can learn to become more aware of them. And as always, I try to come up with some kind of like tips or I guess reflective questions that could potentially help us unlock those things. This episode has been so helpful, even for me to actually get that all out. I loved planning this episode and even talking about it now. I was just like, I have some work to do. I've got some work to do. I think sometimes we feel like we can't change certain situations, but we actually have the power to do so, to be honest with you, more than we realize. And it can become so empowering when we take control of that and do change certain habits, negative habits that we have, into something more positive as well. We can try to, remove the roots that had been ingrained in us at whatever stage in our life, and just plant new seeds. New seeds, girlies, we can plant of positive self-talk and positive, I guess, vibrations and positivity. So what are types of ways that we can, try to reduce the self-sabotage? So things of, if you're one of those kind of people that has a like high inner self-critic, is try and just combat that with a bit of like positive self-talk instead. That could be really helpful. I feel like, actually, before I give those tips, I'm very much someone that is kind of like, try and find the root of that. Where did that come from? Who had said that to you at that point in time? When did you begin to feel those things? And try and unlock those things, because once you're able to do that and do that deep work, that's then when that is, I feel like, always the foundation before then building on top of doing things such as the positive self-talk. Because the positive self-talk and the positive affirmations could be helpful, but if your ingrained beliefs are not changing and your ingrained beliefs are, the things that you say to yourself negatively, the positive self-talk and affirmations won't really help. So try and unlock those things first. What are your beliefs? Start off there. Why are they there? And once you know what they are, so helpful. I had done that. There was like an exercise that I had to do, and I was like, what are my beliefs? Where did they come from? Why? And I'm still kind of like working through and unpicking some of those as well, and learning. That's all we can do, is learn. Another thing then as well is noticing the patterns. So, when you are self-sabotaging, what is it that you're self-sabotaging? What's the scenario? Why are you doing it? when do those things come up? That's really helpful as well. And yeah, I guess becoming more self-aware. So when I was saying about understanding what your beliefs are, why they're there, blah blah blah, it's just an aspect of being able to become more self-aware of what your inner self is saying. Accept them and let go. That comes under that as well. And just take small steps. It can be so overwhelming when doing this because it's just like, oh, I don't even know where to begin. So asking just small questions, and yeah. So girlies, self-sabotaging. It's 2026. We need to kind of let those things go at this point. Like, we cannot continue with that in our life. So we've come to the end of the episode. If you haven't already, I don't know what's stopping you. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the follow button. Hit the notification bell. And give myself a follow. Rianne Walker, but instead of the E in Walker, it is an X. And notes to her.pod on Instagram. So girlies, I will see you in the next episode. Loves ya.